What's up, guys? Welcome back to another week of the 8 Count, a series powered by Atlanta Boxing Social Club. I'm your girl, Jasmine K, delivering weekly boxing updates and keeping you in the know of what's going on the boxing scene. This week, we're getting into the recap of O'Shaquie Foster and Bruce "Shoo Shoo" Carrington. I know it's a little late, but we're going to talk about what's next for those guys, as well as some upcoming fight announcements that broke the internet. I'm talking Benavidez potentially moving up, offer for $55 million being made to Canelo Alvarez, and Tank has accordingly worked out a deal to fight Frank Martin next, and so much more. Without further ado, let's get into this 8 count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Count number 1, O'Shaquie Foster defends his WBC super featherweight title last weekend in a matchup against Abraham Nova, defeating Nova, going the distance all 12 rounds, scoring a knockdown in the 12th round to advance his career record to 22-2. Nova from the first bell brought the fight on to Foster, fighting forward, forcing Foster to beat him fighting off the back foot. We saw in this matchup between the two some weaknesses as well as some strengths. O'Shaquie, for the most part, looked really good. He was disappointed in his performance, feeling as though he could have done more. He was capable of doing more, and whatever the reason, he didn't have the best training camp. He needs a new nutritionist to be added to his team so that he can feel at his full potential with his strength and his power. Nonetheless, this fight did not disappoint. It was action from the first bell to the last bell. Now let's talk about what is next for O'Shaquie Foster. After the fight, in the post-fight interview, O'Shaquie Foster said that he is willing to fight Navarrete next. That is given that he wins his WBO vacant title fight that is coming up, as well as calling out Lamont Roach. If you guys do not remember, Lamont Roach defeated Hector Garcia, still on the way and becoming the new WBA World Super Featherweight title holder. I think that that is probably going to be the next fight for Foster, and I think the better fight, given the styles of both guys and the storyline that ESPN can put together for them, as they already have some beef brewing through Twitter and social media. So I look forward to that fight being made, but we'll see what happens with that. Count number 2, Bruce "Shoo Shoo" Carrington put on a dominating performance, stopping his opponent Bernard-Torres in the 4th round with a nice combination, rolling the right hand of Torres, countering with slightly missing the uppercut, and then doubling up that right hand and landing the hook to put Torres out on the canvas, of which the ref steps in, stopping this fight, awarding Bruce Carrington with KO victory to advance his career record to 11-0. In this performance, Shoo Shoo showed us another level of composure, precise punch placement, good defense, and as usual, a pressing forward style that he also did a great job in controlling the distance and range. I felt as though he put a lot of good combinations together. So what's next for Shoo Shoo? I think as he continues to climb the ladder and he continues to move past prospect to top contender, I would like to see him in a matchup that shows us his ability to fight better on the back foot, to show us what it looks like for him to fight against a fighter who is also a pressure fighter that will be pressing forward. I think that that is the next test, and that is the next level to solidify him as a contender ready for a title shot. Not to say that he's not ready for that right now, but there's one more fight that I would like to see to really feel as though Shoo Shoo is ready for the title shot and that he is on route and on track to becoming the undisputed champion in the featherweight division. So who would give him a good look? I would like to see Shoo Shoo next in the ring with either Robeisio Ramirez, that's given that he does not have the rematch with Rafael Espinoza, as well as Mark Masayo. I think that these guys present the style that prepares Shoo Shoo to step up in the featherweight division from transitioning from prospect to contender and on his title shot chase. But we'll see what comes next and how Top Rank pushes him in his next fight. Count number 3. Joe Cordina, IBF World Super Featherweight title holder and British fighter, 17-0, expresses his frustration with the pushback of his defense fight that was supposed to be on the undercard of Fury versus Usyk, but we all know that Fury suffered the cut in sparring that has now delayed this fight for a later date in May. So with that being said, Joe Cordina has gone on record stating that the thing is, if I can't get a unification fight in my next fight, I will look to go up a weight. I am not getting any younger, and the big money fights are at the weight above me. One thing's for sure, the lightweight division is on fire right now, and the bigger fights would be there. Now, we don't know if Joe Cordina would be able to land those fights in the lightweight division, as we know that Matchroom does not have a lot of lightweight champions or contenders on their roster as of yet. But it is Eddie Hearn, and we know that he is capable of the impossible and putting on the greatest fights, working with other promoters. So there is a lot of potential there, but I think he's in the right division. I think it's only a matter of time before things open up for him. Hopefully he gets this defense fight, and then he's able to get in a unification fight. And let's talk about the guys who currently hold the titles at the super featherweight division. We have O'Shaquie Foster, who is the WBC World Super Featherweight title holder. Lamont Roach is the WBA Super Featherweight title holder after defeating Hector Garcia late in November of last year. And then we have Emmanuel Navarrete, who is moving up in weight class and is fighting for the WBO vacant title. And then we have Joe Cordina, who is the current IBF World Super Featherweight title holder. So again, I think that there is a lot of opportunity there. I understand his frustration. Hopefully he can be a little bit more patient, put on a great fight in his defense that was pushed back to May of this year, and then let's see what happens for him next. Count number 4. In wake of the highly anticipated Fury versus Usyk undisputed heavyweight title clash, WBC President Mauricio Solomon has proposed an additional 2 to 3 judges added to the traditional 3 that sit ringside scoring the fight, stating that anybody can have a bad night. If one judge has a bad night and the 2 others get it correct, you still save the fight. You have 2 judges with a difficult fight, and then 1 round can shift the results. But if you have more officials, the possibility of a wrong score goes to a minimum. I like the direction that he's going, despite both parties declining the proposal to add additional judges to score in this fight. I think it shows the level of progression that the WBC is fighting for the sport to continue to advance and to continue to strengthen the integrity of the sport, particularly when it comes to the judges getting the fight wrong. Oftentimes than not, we see where judges are a little biased in scoring the cards. Sometimes we see a ridiculous scorecard as opposed to the other 2 judges. So I'm backing the WBC on this one for whatever it's worth. I am pro the implementation of additional judges sitting ringside to score fights. I think it will eliminate a lot of robberies that we tend to see in the sport of boxing, but we'll see how this progresses and how other sanctioning bodies pick up on this. Count number 5. In all of the back and forth between who Canelo is fighting next, and PBC still have yet to deliver a deal for Canelo's next opponent, frustration is building up in the Benavidez camp, as Benavidez has stated that if he does not get the fight with Canelo, he is moving on and moving up to the light heavyweight division. Rumor has it, and speculation is that PBC has sent over a $55 million offering to Canelo to face Benavidez in his next fight, May 4th. Of which Team Canelo denies the offer being made, and Benavidez also declining that he knew anything of this $55 million offer. I honestly don't know where the $55 million deal came from. So in today's who's fighting who's getting the deal, what's the deal amount, we still don't know, and we're still sitting at the edge of our seats just waiting for Canelo to come out and say who it is that he's fighting next. I think him and PBC are in some discrepancies on what that deal will be as far as dollar signs, but I do not blame Benavidez in this one and his decision to step up if he does not get the fight with Canelo. When we think about what he's done in the super middleweight division and who stands in front of him from being able to accomplish the most in the division, that is Canelo, money-wise and title-wise. So if he doesn't get the fight with Canelo, then He probably will never become undisputed in the super middleweight division until we wait for Canelo to move on in another weight class and potentially vacate his belts, but there's no signs of that happening. So then we move on to look at what's the biggest money fight in the super middleweight division for him. Well, we know he has already defeated Plant and has also defeated Boo Boo Andre. So what's the next biggest fight after that? Potentially Charlo, maybe a rematch, we don't know. But when you think about what could be a bigger fight stepping up, I think that is moving up to the light heavyweight division where you have two of the biggest champions that gives him an opportunity at title shots and at the biggest fights possible, and that is Benavidez and Bivol. So I do not blame him in wanting to move up. I think that those are the biggest fights for him, and it's time for him to move on if Canelo decides that he doesn't want to fight him. We'll see what happens and what will transpire in the next couple of days, as we are still waiting for Canelo to make his announcement, and it's not fully off the table yet, and we wouldn't see a fight with Canelo versus Benavidez. Count number 6, and breaking news this week, it is official. A deal has been made for Gervonta Tank Davis to face Frank Martin next. I certainly didn't see this one coming. Frank Martin was not a top runner for opponents for Tank, but here we are, and maybe it's because of the email championship that Tank received and being elevated as the WBA World Lightweight title holder. So I'm guessing that with Zepeda being tied up in his fight with Maxie Hughes, that the WBA made the number 2 ranked Frank Martin his mandatory and forced his hand in making this fight happen. Despite us not having a fight just yet, Frank Martin is certainly the biggest winner here, as he is on the biggest come up to fight one of the biggest faces in boxing. Count number 7, Keyshawn Davis versus Andy Cruz. It's not official yet, but it seems as though we are getting closer to seeing this rematch, since we saw both of these guys inside of the rings during the Olympics, of which Andy Cruz defeated Keyshawn Davis, winning the gold medal. Do we get this next? I don't know, but Keyshawn went live Thursday on Instagram, calling out and putting the pressure on Eddie Hearns to make the deal for him to face Andy Cruz next. That is, Andy Cruz has to get past his fight this Saturday for us to see that happen, but I'm not mad at this one. I like the pressure that Keyshawn is putting on Matchroom, and I love the confidence that he bestows in believing that this fight is his fight and that he will not come short this time around. When it comes to determining who's the better fighter and who would be the winner, shall we get this matchup, I'm a little on the fence. I think both guys share a very similar style. I think that they both, being early in their careers, still have a lot of room of growth and development, particularly on the defensive side. I see in both of these guys fighters who struggle when being pressed forward, facing guys that are pressure fighters and forcing a fight inside. So I would like to see them develop a little bit more defensively before we get this fight. But again, I'm not mad at Keyshawn's confidence and pushing for this fight to be next. I think if anything, we get the fight now and it continues to build on the rivalry that these guys will have throughout their career fighting. In saying all of that, I am giving Keyshawn Davis the advantage here and the edge in being the victor. Shall we see this fight, given the fact that he has more professional experience with his 10 fights as opposed to Andy Cruz's 3 by Saturday night. Count number 8. I am holding and dedicating this slot to Floyd Money Mayweather, as he claims to still be the face of boxing. Floyd cannot just let it go. Now, I'm not going to reserve this slot to primarily talk about Floyd Mayweather, but let's change this a little bit and focus on his prospect that he has underneath his wing. Curmel Moton is an exciting prospect that just turned pro last year with only 2 fights, now having the announcement of his 3rd fight coming March 29th. I'm looking forward to seeing what this young guy does again, as I feel as though we are witnessing a special talent, maybe even a next generation phenomenon within the sport of boxing. That is because of his fast rising likeness that everyone is taking to him, as well as his style that gives us a miniature play off of Gervonta Tank Davis and even Mike Tyson, and his dog style, pressing forward, vicious attack on his opponents that we've seen thus far. I think that the future is bright for this young man, and I think that it's only going to take a couple of years for him to turn from prospect, skip contender, to being champion and being a star within the sport of boxing. Those are my crystal ball predictions for Curmel Moton. Let me know what you guys think about that and the track that he's on so far. As always, I hope that you guys have enjoyed the 8 count this week. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and until next time.